The other day, I was booking a cruise for a friend, and then I asked her if she needed travel insurance. And she said, "Why would I need travel insurance for? I've never used it before." I thought to myself, that's a very good question because if you never needed travel insurance before, you won't see the benefit of it. Think of it this way, it's kind of like health insurance. More often than not, you're not going to use the health insurance. There's not going to be any kind of medical emergency that happens, but when it does happen, you're glad that you have it. Same thing with travel insurance. It's not very likely some kind of emergency is going to happen that require you to have travel insurance or need to use travel insurance. But when it does happen, you're very thankful that you have it. And the answer to this question will vary from person to person because it's all about risk tolerance. If something were to go wrong, would you be willing to bear the cost of that? If you're unable to go on that trip, are you okay with losing out on the money that you had paid for the trip already? Especially if it was non-refundable. What if it was $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000? At what point do you start to sweat to say, ooh, if I miss that trip, I don't want to lose that kind of money. It hurts me. It worries me. Your answer is no, it doesn't bother me. Well, then, travel insurance may not be for you. Your answer is yes, you may want to look into it a little bit more. Same thing with medical expenses. Is if I were to get hurt on this trip, would I be able to cover the costs of the medical care? Most health insurance, especially if it's outside of your host country, so for example, the United States, if I get hurt in Jamaica, Mexico, Germany, or something, now health insurance, most health insurances will not cover that cost. So be sure to check your health plan because some of them do, but most don't. So it's good to know your health policy. And even within the United States, you have in network and out of network policies. So just because you're in the United States, if you're out of network when you get hurt, your costs may be a lot higher versus if you had travel insurance, it can help offset those costs or pay those costs for you. This is another one of the reasons why it varies from person to person if it's right for you or not. Because think about the United States, if you don't have health insurance, even with health insurance, a trip in the ambulance could be very pricey. Now imagine doing that overseas. Now imagine you're on a cruise ship and you had to be airlifted off the cruise line. Imagine if you're out in the mountains and you had to be airlifted out in the mountains to the nearest hospital. It can get very pricey very quick. So what is your risk tolerance? At what point do you say, it may be wise to make that kind of investment? And one of the biggest advantages of travel insurance, it can give you that peace of mind that, hey, if a medical emergency happens, I'm covered. Hey, if my trip is canceled, well, then this could help cover those costs if it's for a covered reason. And there's tons of companies that offer travel insurance. So I can't say what policy is the best because it will vary from person to person or which policy fits them the best in their specific needs. But I will leave a link below to one of the companies I use to show my clients and offer them travel insurance. It is, again, one of the many providers you can take a look at. So be sure to do your research. Since policies can vary so much, I'm going to go over a few of the common coverages that you can choose from. One of the things to consider is trip cancellation. Under what scenario would your trip be able to be canceled and you get a refund for it? This could be from your medical emergencies. Maybe if I get hurt a week before the trip, I'm unable to go on the trip. Maybe job loss could be one of them. You get pregnant and now you can no longer go on that plane. You can no longer go on a cruise ship because of your pregnancy. What are the situations that this is covered in? And the list of covered reasons will vary greatly between different providers and policies, so be sure to check into that. Trip delays, nothing to look into. If your trip is delayed, what is the time frame that they would reimburse you or come and cover some of those expenses? So if my flight is delayed 3 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, I have to stay the night somewhere else. What is their coverages? How much do they pay? At what point will they pay and reimburse you for some of these unexpected expenses? Bag coverage. If your bag is lost or delayed, what kind of coverage do they have there? Some of them will reimburse you a certain amount of money if it's delayed or lost and things like that. So this will help offset some of the airline's mistakes. This is one of the more common things that happen, unfortunately, but this will help cover those unexpected scenarios. Trip interruption. If your trip ends early for whatever reason, you'll get reimbursed. Again, it will have a list of scenarios where this will kick in, but if you have to end your trip early, this is a possibility that you can get reimbursed for the part of the trip you missed out on. In some cases, even more. It depends. Evacuation. It's one of those scenarios if you had to be evacuated out of an area, whether it be for medical reasons or political reasons, something happens in the country and now you had to evacuate the country. This helps offset those costs and help get you out of the country as quick as possible. Again, it's one of those less common scenarios, but it does happen. And unfortunately, there's a reason why it's on this list of possible things to look into. Next one is death and dismemberment. I know this is kind of a sad topic, but if someone were to pass away on a trip, this will pay some sum of money, kind of like life insurance, to help offset some of those costs. Also, be sure to look when you have to purchase a plan. A lot of policies will try to get you purchased at the time of booking the travel, which is a wise decision, but sometimes you can wait a little bit before actually making the decision. Be sure to check on a policy because it could be 7 days, could be 14 days, could be 21 days after booking the trip, but be sure to look into it because it does vary. So those are some of the things to look into when you're looking to buy travel insurance. Now for the big question, do I use travel insurance myself? And the answer to that is sometimes. It's back to that risk tolerance idea. Is if I book a trip for maybe $1,000, $2,000, I take a chance of something maybe happening at a certain point, it'll be non-refundable. And not that I would like to lose that money but not go on the trip for any number of reasons, but for me, it's okay, not the end of the world. I'm willing to accept that risk. Versus if I book a $5,000, $6,000 trip, at that point I start to sweat. I'm like, ooh, something happens, I don't know what I'm going to do. It may worry me a little bit. So in that scenario, I may find it worthwhile to actually get travel insurance. So that way my trip's insured and I have a peace of mind if something does happen, I'm not out all of that money. But again, it's back to the idea of risk tolerance and case by case scenario. So be sure to evaluate your situation. Let me know if you get travel insurance when you travel and what do you use. I'll see y'all next time.